Detective Rachel Hayes had seen many unusual cases, but nothing like this. A young woman, Emily Turner, was reported missing 2 days ago. Her mother, Mrs. Turner, insisted Emily had disappeared from their home in the middle of the night without a trace. The odd thing? There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing had been stolen. Rachel arrived at the Turner household for a follow-up interview. Mrs. Turner was in the kitchen, nervously stirring a pot of tea. She didn't take anything with her, Mrs. Turner said, her voice trembling. No clothes, no phone. It's as if she just vanished. Rachel glanced around the room. A few family photos lined the walls, but one in particular caught her attention. It was an old picture of Emily and her mother, smiling at a beach, the edges of the photo slightly worn. Did Emily have any enemies? Anyone who might want to harm her? Rachel asked. Mrs. Turner shook her head. She was a quiet girl, kept to herself. Always came home by curfew. Rachel's instincts told her there was more to the story. She decided to visit Emily's bedroom, which felt untouched since her disappearance. A neat room, devoid of anything unusual except for the small mirror on the dresser. It seemed ordinary at first, but when Rachel stood in front of it, she saw something strange. A faint smudge, almost like a fingerprint, on the glass's surface. She reached out, lightly brushing the smudge with her fingertips. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Suddenly, a voice whispered from behind her, "Help me." Rachel spun around, but the room was empty. Her heart pounded as she examined the mirror again. This time, a face appeared. Emily's pale reflection stared back at her from inside the mirror, her eyes pleading. "Please, get me out of here," Emily's reflection mouthed. Rachel stumbled back, trying to make sense of what she had seen. But before she could react, Mrs. Turner appeared in the doorway. "I see you found her," Mrs. Turner said, her voice eerily calm. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. What is this?" Mrs. Turner stepped forward, her eyes cold. "Emily never left the house. I couldn't let her go. She wanted to leave me, so I made sure she couldn't." Rachel's mind raced. This wasn't just a missing persons case, it was something far darker. "You trapped her." In the mirror, Mrs. Turner smiled softly. "A mother's love knows no bounds, detective. She's safe now, forever." Rachel backed away, her hand reaching for her phone. "This is insane. You can't keep her like this. Don't bother calling for help," Mrs. Turner said, her voice taking on an unnatural edge. "No one will believe you." As Rachel turned to run, she heard the faint whisper again, Emily's voice, desperate and trapped. The reflection in the mirror flickered, and for a split second, Rachel saw not only Emily's face but her own as well, distorted, as if she too was being pulled into the glass. The door slammed shut behind her.